Karen felt like she was going to give birth, so her husband Frank quickly drove her to the hospital. Karen was in labor for 48 hours when she finally gave birth. But when the doctor saw what she gave birth to, he immediately turned pale. He did not know what to say. The babies were carried away, and Karen was told they needed to run some tests to make sure the triplets was fine. After hours, the doctor returned. This cannot be good. The doctor told the parents that they needed to run some more tests. Karen begged to see her triplets. The doctor would not budge. He did not even want to tell them anything. Frank got a little angry as well. When Karen was asked if she was sure that Frank was the father, she was shocked. Karen started crying when she was pressured. A lot happened before and during the pregnancy. She did not want to tell anyone about it. Karen almost couldn't speak. It was so difficult for her to tell what she had done. She had a wild lifestyle before meeting Frank. She drank and partied a lot. Frank managed to get her to slow down. But it could have been too late. She got pregnant by surprise. During the pregnancy, she often had bad stomach cramps that she could not explain. Karen thought this was normal for pregnancy. When the nurse looked at past tests that other doctors ran, she saw something weird. A lot of information was redacted. It was almost like they were trying to cover something up. The nurse had called a doctor back in. She asked him about the test results. However, the doctor who ran the tests was fired 2 weeks ago. The doctor kept reassuring Karen that the triplets were still fine, but they had to figure out if they could survive without being taken care of. When the nurse did her last round, Karen sneaked out of bed. It was finally time to get answers. Karen sneaked her way to the floor above. Adrenaline was pumping through her veins. She is almost there. Security was doing its rounds, so Karen had to be careful. She was still weak from giving birth, so if they caught her, she couldn't run. She enters the room and starts looking around. Her babies did not seem to be here at all. Then, in the corner of her eye, she sees a special unit. When Karen sees her children, she actually starts crying. Then she lets go with a loud scream. She doesn't care if anyone hears her. The doctor and a couple of nurses came running inside. They saw Karen on the floor next to the unit with her triplets. They thought of the worst. Karen was in total shock when the nurses sat down next to her. Karen demands an explanation now. She wants to know why her babies look like that. The doctor has no answers for her. He tells Karen that the results of the test will probably come tomorrow. That night, Karen can't sleep at all. She only thinks about what she had seen that night. Her babies did not look good at all. The doctor looks very concerned the next day when stepping inside the room. Frank comes in and immediately starts confronting Karen. "What have you done?" The doctor urges Frank to be quiet and sit down. Frank was asked by the doctor to give a DNA sample. Frank was confused, but he agreed. He wanted to get an answer. The doctor said that they had found nothing extremely strange. Frank is indeed the father, but they could not find any DNA from Karen. Karen was extremely confused. The doctor had no answer for this. Karen wants to see her children now. This time, the doctor agreed to walk Frank and Karen to the baby room. When Frank sees his children for the first time, he is totally baffled. The doctor assures the couple that they are working around the clock to provide them with answers. Multiple doctors are working overtime in the lab to figure out what is going on with their children and the strange DNA results. Karen is still very much in denial. She does not want to keep the babies because she says it isn't hers. Frank then tries to encourage Karen to care for and keep the babies. The doctor told them the babies are healthy and didn't seem to suffer from something life-threatening. The only thing is that everything took longer than expected, and they will have the results tomorrow. Frank and Karen decide to indeed go home without the babies. They both thought long and hard that night about what they would do. They had been waiting in front of the phone since they woke up. Any minute the doctor could call. They pick up. Karen puts the doctor on speaker. He starts talking about what they had done and reveals that they finally have an answer that they want to share to them in person. They enter the doctor's office, and the doctor tells them to sit down. The nurse brings the babies in, and he tells them their triplets are perfectly healthy. They also have an explanation for why the babies are so small. The babies had no room to properly grow inside of Karen's belly. The doctor explains that the babies will actually slowly get better with time, and they will grow up to be normal-sized children. Karen and Frank are relieved. The DNA was explained as well. They made the mistake of not taking Karen's DNA, so they did not have a match.